Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Blue Canoe Q&A. We've been generating our questions. We're ready to go. We're going to start with Janine's great question. One of the first things she asked, which was, what do you do with Blue Canoe in the classroom? Is that the nature of the question, Janine?
Yeah. And Christina was saying that she does it for 5 minutes every day in class. So I am very curious.
First and foremost, what I got is a DocuCam. So I use my DocuCam as my
one of these.
Yeah, like what Karen has. So I can show my phone to them, and I can actually guide them on what to do if they get stuck. But for example, we play the Color It Out. So we play the game Color It Out for a couple of minutes, and then we go to the sentences. The sentences is like we practice 2 or 3 sentences. And one thing that I do before getting into Blue Canoe is going to the chart. Even I think it's like I can do it in Blue Canoe too. We can go to the chart and you can listen and you say green T, E, silver pen, A, and you can go one by one before going to the part that is practice. Purely.
Christina, if I could then, take, let me see what I can do here. I'm trying to share screen on my phone. And so if I share on my phone or if I share on a document camera, if I just have you, what do you mean by you play Blue Canoe, for example? Like if I come in here, let me pull up Blue Canoe. Oh, there we go. Stop. And get our Blue Canoe open.
Color It Out.
Okay, I'm going to go to Color It Out because I think, Janine, you want to really know what do means.
Right.
Yeah.
So we go to new game.
And so here's the game. And so you're saying that you play just all of you looking at this together, right?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I've got nothing. Drawing a card. Brown cow,
Drought.
brown cow, outlook.
First of all, I would have everybody take the turn with the computer every time. So they should be doing not just watching it play, but take out your hands and follow right along at the moment. That takes a little training. Now what, Christina?
And then here it's like, okay, I will pick one of the students. Let's say I go around the screen, put it that way. Okay, so you were next. So the person who selected will have to say, okay, let's get demand.
Okay.
So now we have this too, and the person who was selected will have to say, black cat expand, black cat demand.
Okay. Do you ever use help me say my turn? This little guy right here?
Yes.
Great. So we'd listen.
Black cat expand, black cat demand.
Again, everybody just take out your hands now. Every time you hear a cue of that starting, just go ahead and follow. Why I would, if I could just add into that, what Christina's doing for us is beautiful. We always want to do this active listening because it's a brain trigger to have the handout noticing where the peak vowel is. So even if you're not repeating with it, this behavior creates an awareness that without any kind of physical gesture doesn't do, right? So just this alone is a way to engage the learner. If you need to explain it to them at another time, do. But just do it for now and make that a standard thing that you insist on. My phone doesn't.
So does your student have to come up to the document camera in order for the student to record?
So do you have them recording on this phone, Christina?
What do you mean the recording?
Do they take a turn now? Like, do you have them record down here or do you then take the turn for them?
No, they do.
They walk up to the camera in the case of a classroom setting. Yeah. Okay. So they walk up. So if you're teaching face-to-face, they walk up and they record. We could just see, hold on one second. My phone is in some kind of sleep mode. I'm not sure I would experiment much with virtual, like having Christina take the turn into my phone through the speaker. I think that's asking a lot.
We can do that.
We could, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it because the voice is already going through a phone to get up to the cloud. So to do that twice but we could all practice, couldn't we? We could, this doing, Janine, could be us going around the room or 3 people for any given turn, right? Like Christina just did it. Then I'd say, your turn, Solange. And then she would take a turn with her hand.
Mhm.
I see.
And then Cassandra,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
So
Cassandra.
all the students don't have to have Blue Canoe up and on. Okay.
No.
No,
So let me see if Karen, let me explain. So in my school, I had requested, because in the explanation in the emails, the trial out email that I got, it says that it only works for on iPhone and iPad. So I requested to our tech department the iPads. One was for the instructor, okay, and the 4 for my students. But I'm in a low incidence school, middle school, that's for my middle school students, grade 6 through 8. And I work independent, I work one-on-one. I'm not gonna have a group. But it seems from what you were saying, not to have a group of students using the same phone or iPad, it's okay to work one-on-one, correct?
Sure,
To
sure.
have that to do by, with one-on-one, because that's what I want. I'm telling my students that we are going to try out an app, okay, for us to improve our pronunciation, to pick up a better rhythm of the English language. So when there are games, so we are going to learn together, okay? So I'm going to put the poster, of the color Vowel that I have, but I'm going to work one-on-one with my students.
That's fine.
So, and in the game, for example, do they explain how to play the game? For there are several games. See, I don't know the app
Okay,
yet.
so yeah, and I think part of it you need to go and see by experiencing how it is that you logged into Blue Canoe.
Right.
Exactly, and this is for everybody to hear. When you get your own access to Blue Canoe, if you haven't yet, your onboarding experience is exactly the same as a student's because it's one app version. Okay, so you're going to log in. You'll then have some setting up your profile, and then it's going to walk you through a really basic introduction to color vowels, which would be vowel sounds and stress. And then it introduces you to color it out. And it actually walks you in slowly, or as slowly as we were able, we designed it in a way that we wanted to move forward, but introduce at the same time.
So I will not set up the students in the Blue Canoe. So it's not like I'm setting up a class or several where I
You
will have
certainly
the students
can. So
log in.
yeah, you certainly can. And I think it's worth, maybe you'll want to watch, and this would be the reason we want to kind of show the big picture for you, Solange, since you're new to this, is to know, let me give you a glimpse. You can set up a whole class of students. And the teacher then has access to data when it's through the school where we can track their behavior or their activity, let's say. Here, I don't think I'm showing too much of anybody's given information. So this is an example from Edmonds, actually, from Edmonds Community College in Washington, of these players. This is a brand new group. They've just started onboarding, as you can see, January 6th, yesterday. So these folks down below are still, they haven't come to class yet, where the teacher will onboard them. Some of these, you can see these folks above either have already been playing before from a previous semester, and you can see that because of their total points and how many days they've played, or they're brand new and they're kind of those super tech savvy learners that, got the invitation and knew how to get in. So everybody's a little different when it comes to getting into the app when they've been invited. And this is when a school has purchased licenses, okay? Or it's when a teacher who's new to Blue Canoe, like Solange's, decides, you know what, I'm going to participate in the 8-week free trial that we
Right.
provide.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Right.
When you do that, it looks very much like this, right? It's just an 8-week trial, but otherwise it doesn't have any limitations. It's the same process. And so as students, maybe let's just say this student down here will end up being the one that's hardest to get onboarded because they come with the lowest level tech skills. They have a phone, but they don't really know how to, download an app, and they need a little more help. And I take this not as a problem so much as an opportunity that nowadays, in this era moving forward, it is our job not just to teach English, but to teach the technology of learning English online. It just is a reality for all of us. So if this is, how you're going to, what they're going to learn is how to download an app and get onboarded. That's what we provided you the support for. Okay. And so, and I see a question from Jennifer that I'm just sort of watching questions. So I'm going to read that in a second. And I don't mean to make this wider because it shows everybody's data. There we go. So this is the way that you're going to know who has gotten into the app on their own, on their smartphone, their iPad, or an Android mobile device. I want to make that clear. It's open also to regular, like Samsung or Nokia or whatever. So long as it's a smart device that's mobile, it's made for that. Coming to Skip's question, we have not designed Blue Canoe for Chromebooks. So although some Chromebooks or all operate on an Android platform, it's a different animal. And it really varies from latest Chromebook to latest Chromebook, because it has to have a touch screen. And we can't say that we support that. If you've ever heard that annoying phrase from techs where they say we don't support that, I now really appreciate what that means. And it means that the programming just isn't made for that platform. And we can't say that we can answer questions to troubleshoot because it's not the design of the software. So Skip, I would not put a lot of energy into trying to get this onto the Chromebooks. It just is, and plus with bureaucracy, it's an uphill climb at best. Okay.
It's just getting it into the phones too. I tried with the Chromebooks, but just getting it onto the phones, which is really difficult as well. So,
yeah, and then the next piece. Well, you mean into students' phones?
into students' phones, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and is that because of internet access at school?
It's not because of internet access. It's because of the security and what they want and what permissions.
Exactly. So let me speak to age groups for a minute. It wasn't a question that came up, but it's one that everyone should hear about because we have enough 2 or 3 people who work with younger learners. With minors who are in a public school system, there are obviously privacy and security issues that are involved. And so it's not to say it's impossible. We had a large school district, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, which is a pretty big system in South Carolina, that adopted Blue Canoe onto students' phones. And they used their school addresses as the foundation account, right? And they cleared that, but they also had a technology department that decided from the beginning that that was okay. So it really depends from school system to school system.
Right. In that regard, for example, in my case, in our school, we cannot. I talked first because that's the process in New Hampshire. You have to have the tech department vet
exactly
the application, the app, any app we use, any online platform we use. Everything.
So Solange, I'm gonna and I'll just speak to that, and I'm gonna kind of.
We did a vet. He vetted Blue Canoe, but he said we cannot do. I said because I can then use on their phone. And he said no, we are not allowed. The students are not allowed to run sponsored apps, on their own devices.
Precisely.
So you request iPads. So that's what I did. I request the iPads from our tech department. They are school devices that the students are going. So if we need to put their email, is going to be, I have even to talk because I'm going to have an alias.
Okay.
Email
one step
them.
at a time. So, and you and I can talk more in detail down that pathway.
Sorry.
I'm taking these, for the whole group. I want to say a couple things. We designed this for smartphones because pronunciation work requires enough quiet space to do the voice recognition. So be aware that if you're trying to get this into classrooms for real-time use on school devices, you're going to be opening up a new can of worms, which is noise. Meaning you have 20 people in the room, each with an iPad talking into it, and it's going to be trickier and trickier to get good feedback. And one of the bits of feedback, if any of you nod your head if you've gotten that, is I can't hear you clearly. Anybody ever gotten that feedback? We have, this taken incredible amount of engineering to find the sweet spot of, this isn't going to listen to my husband talking in the next room. It's going to block that out, but it's going to listen to me carefully, right? Let alone 20 people talking in my proximity. So
Mhm.
we play with just enough attention, but not too much attention. And I would not bet on the devices working at their best when they're surrounded by 20 other devices. So
Mhm.
my quick response, if I want to think of solution-oriented goes, if I were Skip, if I were Solange in classrooms, I would, and these are minors in addition who can't go out of the classroom and practice on their own. I would go to one device, which is my own, and I would do things like Christina's describing and play
Mhm.
off one device. And so then what? What are we really doing there? You're having another way to engage students in gamified learning in your classroom, and it's down to that level. But if I can switch gears here to a different view of what Blue Canoe is really intended to do, it's intended to provide mature learners. It's really designed for adults, and it can go down into high school and very mature middle schoolers. Okay. It's designed to provide them the practice time that they need outside of your class. That's its
Mhm.
number one purpose. Number one purpose is I teach with Color Vowel by day, and my students get practice every day outside of class with the same kind of feedback. That's revolutionary. I mean, just think about it. What does it mean to practice your pronunciation as homework before now? I mean, what? I can say a word. I don't know that I'm doing it correctly. I can say a sentence and hope that it's right. But we know that to practice pronunciation outside of class has been a canard. It's been a non-starter. It's all words and no action because nobody has the confidence. So now this is that opportunity to have the confidence to practice by themselves on their device that they have all the time. They can take it, if we're talking adults for a minute, it could be on their break time in the break room when they're alone. It can be at night in bed. It can be in the morning when the kids are still asleep. Whatever that is, it's that sacred little 10, 20 minutes per day of practice with the open hand, because we know that this is how we can change habits about the time on Vowel. Did anybody attend last night's session of Pure English Practice, where we heard and saw the difference when that one learner used their hand and extended all the way? It was remarkably more English sounding than it had been just a minute earlier with their hand like this. So really trying to bring the body into an experience of practice with this device. Okay, I know I've kind of taken this in a big direction, but I don't want us to get stuck down on the things that all bug us. I know administrations are hard to work with, software and hardware devices, it's always tricky, but at its best, learners get to go practice on their own. Okay, so those of you with those face-to-face settings where you don't feel like you can get them into learners' hands outside of class, look at Christina's example, and we could come up with more of those. Christina.
I have one more comment. Another thing that my students like Blue Canoe is because that sometimes when you are trying to say, okay, let you read this first sentence, you read the second sentence. Sometimes they feel not really comfortable doing that in the class. So when they practice in private, I mean, I told them, it's like, what, when I was learning, pronunciation, I did all these crazy things, and they laugh because I do all the stupid things that I did in front of the mirror. But it's like, and I was telling them, but now you have something that can tell you if it's correct. I didn't have anybody. I have my own image there. It's like, if I did it wrong, it was wrong. And that's why, those mistakes that I keep having over and over again, I have to erase my memory of saying it in the wrong way. I can fix it because I can listen to the right way of doing it.
Yeah.
And that is also that they feel comfortable because they don't have to say, oh, but I don't want to pronounce. What if I don't pronounce right? What if I don't sound cool? So, and that's the other thing that they liked about.
Yeah. We've had many comments. One I remember specifically from a Japanese user who said, "Oh, it's so nice to be able to practice speaking English in private, where I don't have to worry about anybody hearing me," which, I thought, oh, don't feel embarrassed, but that's how they feel. And
Yeah.
for them, it was liberating. Annette.
So that just brought up something that I'm wondering. I tried the pilot program, but I teach in a program that's free to the students, working adults. They don't get grades. So trying to get them to practice outside of class is really difficult because they love Blue Canoe, they love Color Vowel, but once they leave that classroom, they leave it all behind until the next time they walk through my door. And trying to motivate them is to use to practice at all is really hard. But I was wondering if I say click on beginner social conversations in life and say to them, okay, when we come back to class the next time, I'm going to ask you to read this conversation, you to read this conversation, because these conversations should be the same on each one of their phones, right?
Yep.
So then
So
they
can
assign
use
that
it
as
Yep. Go ahead.
homework, and they would have to come back the next class and be prepared to read us. That way they can practice it at home, build their confidence.
Yeah.
I'm just troubleshooting, trying to figure out maybe that would work. It would help them practice and also motivate them to at least use this for whatever portion they're supposed to read when they come back to class.
Karen, wouldn't a color vowel organizer support that as well? In other words, build the vocabulary off
That's
that?
right. They could be, I think what you're referring to is if you sort of, have you introduced them to the organizer in class anyway, Annette?
Oh, yes, we do it every single class. I have a list of vocabulary words that we investigate, put on the color vowel organizer, and work with every class.
Great. So then what do you think, Paul? You think maybe they have one organizer dedicated to their Blue Canoe homework?
Could
and
be.
they have to come back with it. Maybe that's more concrete than play.
Annette, what are you what students what subjects are you teaching them? Whole spectrum or?
Whole spectrum, really. Not too heavy on the writing, but the speaking, the listening.
So whatever they're curious about, let them build a vocabulary based on that. And then as they interact with the students, they could come back with, the pronunciation. Then everybody gets, there's a lot of diversity in terms of the subjects that they're covering.
Well, subjects are dictated by the curriculum that we have to use. We are funded by Career Tech. And so we use the project success curriculum. So we are told, you will teach this lesson, you will teach this lesson. So I don't get a lot of freedom in actual subjects, like.
Okay.
So one thing I think I should clarify is that if you're using Clipfolio, which is our dashboard, and if you're monitoring their points, they don't have to use today's plan to get those points. It's just been a way that we can package their sense of completion because each one has a little check, right? So when they're looking, here's today's plan, for example, and I'll make this a little bigger for you. See if we can just look at it. Now let's see. Come on. There we go. So you see that we have little check marks that when they finish this quiz and when they finish this, all 6 of the sentences under traveling, and they finish this, that they get the check marks and it shows up here. And then they get points over in Clipfolio. So it's a good idea to do the lesson that's there. But if they go into browse around here, and if they scroll down and see, for example, social life, they can spend time in here and gain more points, okay, or points in general. So
that's what I'm talking about, using to assign for homework,
Yeah. So you can either decide you want them to prepare social life lesson 1, they all know exactly which lesson, and you might say to them, you don't know which sentence I'll ask you to present, so you'd better practice all 6 really well. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Motivation here.
Yeah. And then you'll kind of just do round robin. I could see that working really nicely. But I think there's another dialogue worth having with them, which is, you might ask them, how many of you go to the gym or work out at home? Who gets exercise at least, a few times a week? Just raise a hands and ask them, well, why do you Why do you do it so often? And you're like, well, because that's how exercise works. You're like, oh yeah, it is how exercise works. What are you forming? Habits around how you move your body, how you want your body to feel, and move that analogy right into how Blue Canoe is designed to do this. I think having a bit of a meta conversation, even with lower level learners, with the right vocabulary, the right, depth of conversation, is very important, because their language may be limited, but they're human beings that like to be healthy and they like to make good changes. So help them be aware of why Blue Canoe is there to have a daily practice, and then come up with a set of goals that's realistic. Can you practice 4 days a week? That would be the absolute minimum, by the way, to really make it worth the lift, is at least 4 days per week, but consistently, not an average of 4. It needs to be 4 days a week, or more. Okay, 5, 6, 7 is ideal. But the 5-day work week, that's a really nice number. And when you have that goal, then you can monitor that in Clipfolio and say, hey, you hit your 5, and you can celebrate that. So Annette, that's the other piece. When we talk about what's available in the Blue Canoe pilot program and the course space that we offer, I wanted to share that with you, if I can just find that over here. We provide ways to keep them motivated with what we call leaderboard concepts, like your top 3 players of the past week, right? Or, and this would be down here in the navigate section. And most of you are in here. I know a couple of you aren't. Lisa, you haven't seen this yet, or Cassandra, but this is a free course space that is available to you to see, how to, if we just go home for a minute, how to prepare for a launch of Blue Canoe with your students, how to actually launch, how to get those accounts made with me, and so forth. And then we get into kind of the sweet spot, which is to navigate. And in that navigate section, forming that daily routine, using, ways to boost students' motivation is by reminding them of the importance of daily routines like exercise and like pronunciation practice. So these are memes. These are little graphic memes that Jennifer developed, and a couple of our other teachers developed. This one down here that says 32,000 player points. That's just taken straight off of Clipfolio, and then you can translate it into 53 hours of practice. And I give you those formulae down here to say, you as a group, you're 8 of you, and together you played over 10 hours this past week. That's great. Can we beat that the coming week? Yeah. So little ways to kind of up the sense of like, hey, we're going to beat our last record in play together. And it doesn't have to just be about the winners and the low players. It can be a group effort as well. Okay. So just a few thoughts there. Those of you that haven't joined the teacher pilot program space and want to, can go to our website at Blue Canoe Learning and join from the educators page, which I'm putting that there. So it's bluecanoelearning.com/educators. And here it is in the chat for those of you that haven't been there yet. There's a little form there, and it puts you in our system and gives you an invitation to that Canvas space where we have a lot of really good information. We're coming close to the top of our hour, and I wanted to, we did have quite a bit about how to share Blue Canoe and in the real moment in the class. And Annette, I think you had a question about sharing to a smart board. I mean, there's always a new interface to try to challenge with. I would say take that to somebody who is there at your site, who knows that tech even more. But I think we gave you a couple of pretty handy ways today. Sometimes it's as simple as having, some kind of a little camera like we've had that Christina uses as well. Okay. As far as our other questions go, I wanted to come back to this question that Janine raised, which is just such kind of a profound question. And she had to leave the room, but I'm going to leave it here because it's good for everybody. What do you do in class with Blue Canoe? There's mainly 2 main sort of things you do with it. One is you reinforce how to use it effectively outside of class. That I think would be a very good use of time, is don't assume that the app is magical and gets everybody using it in its best way possible. It really needs your reinforcement. So showing them and watching them use the open hand while holding their phone. After all, when was the last time you knew of anything that required you to move your arm around while you look at your phone? Anyone? No, there's nothing else out there like that, right? It's weird. So you
All
have
the Italian speakers have to do it.
was
so
like-
yeah. What'd you say,
It was like
Cassandra?
the program my son did, kind of.
Okay, so
in a good
yeah,
way.
so there aren't many that require you to, hold a phone. Most phone apps are look at it or touch it, and it does what it's supposed to do. But this is an app that requires that it actually, the part of the problem is that it doesn't require it. It doesn't know if you're not using your hand. So that's why you need to use what time you have in class to reinforce. You do it in fun ways, the way Christina showed us. Have them play in front of you. Have them take their turns in front of you so that when they do go play, they're ready to continue and they know why. That this is where the stress is, and that the length of the arm is the amount of time that helps them sound more comprehensible. Okay. The other kind of focus you can have in class is enhancement. And that would be, for example, using Blue Canoe during a reading activity. And that's when you would have students make pretty significant use of the dictionary, right? Where they would look up words that they encounter, and they'd be keeping track of the words they just looked up while they're looking it up, okay? Or maybe you're online with them and they're going to use the Blue Canoe browser extension. And this is kind of a small capture of it, but I sort of mocked this up. You can install the browser extension on school computers possibly, but definitely their own computers, to look up words that they encounter in the moment. And that's huge support for a reading and discussion activity, okay?
That works on their phone, I discovered. Or actually my
Really?
students discovered that it works on their phone. Some of them did, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I suppose it depends on a number of that would be kind of like a surprise because
Yeah, I was
our,
surprised.
yeah, our tech
Cassandra
designer.
had a question.
Mhm. Go ahead.
I'm concerned, like if you did the pilot program, if I was paying for the program that I get as a pilot program on my own, would my students, I pay for the program and my students would all be able to benefit from that? Or would they also have to go up to a higher?
So the pilot program is you receive a premium version, you the teacher, for when you're ready, you onboard your group of students. You have 8 weeks to give that a full trial, and they get the premium version. So,
And then does that ever convince districts to buy it for the school?
yes.
I had a thought for you there. Each week, take a clip folio picture, a screen image, and show the progress that the students are doing. And then if you can identify the student who's, really excelling, that other educators in your system are noticing something, use that to say, hey, this is how it's working. This is why we're doing this stuff.
Exactly. And actually, you've just cut to the crux of why we provide the teacher pilot program. This is designed to help you become your own best advocate. Okay. So when you start with prepare, notice that I ask you to do a sample pre-post survey. And that's going to come back at the end of your pilot, where you just ask them how, I feel confident when I speak English. How confident are they? And after 8 weeks of using the app systematically, knowledgeably, and consistently, does that change?
Right.
And we find that their attitudes about their own spoken English do change. And that's very compelling. And any teacher who goes to an administrator with that kind of data, that shows a lot of forethought. Like, I know that this is going to work. I'm going to show you that it works. I'm going to collect this data. I don't have to do anything to that data because it speaks for itself. But you took a serious approach, 8 weeks, and then they go to their administrators and say, look, this works. I want this. And we found this to be very successful. Yep.
Because I wouldn't want to do 7 weeks and then say, oh, well, we're all done. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think my school would buy it.
So there are a couple of things that come up toward the end. When you come down to, let me see if I can find the right place for you here. Here's that scale again. There's another survey there that you can use. You can certainly change it the way you want to. But when you do that, then you can go to look at purchasing, and you can do this at any time, by the way, sorry,
Okay.
to look at what the options are. If your if your school is not prepared in terms of budgeting to
Right.
purchase Blue Canoe for your students can go and purchase it themselves. Okay.
I have very
Now,
poor students, so. that
okay,
makes
if you have
sense.
very poor students, then they can't, and so they won't. But the
Okay.
other thing you could do that I don't really post here is simply use what you have available in the free version. And
Right,
that
right.
is color it out, and then you also have, if you're in the US especially, you have access to the hand-based game, the handheld game that Paul has. Okay, so that's color it out. I should always have my deck sitting out ready to haunt me, and I think I was cleaning earlier.
While you're looking, can I just clarify, if the school buys it, then do the students need to invest as well? Or,
No, when a school purchases licenses,
Yeah.
then you, the teacher, manage those licenses. And
Okay.
you work with me and the team that we assign them to their students by their email address.
but would they
And then-
pay more per student? Would they pay per student also?
Yeah, they pay per student. Yeah, it's
Okay,
a
that's
licensing agreement. And then as that student comes and goes, like if your roster changes, you
Right.
can reassign that license to another student.
Okay.
You
Okay,
run into the situation where it's allowed on the school, but not on private computers. So, however your IT environment, if they're super secure, or what Karen said about Mecklenburg, that no, yeah, you can use it either place. And some just say the school, it's credit.
Okay.
And you run into the problem is you only get one email address for the people to run them through.
that's right. Meaning, I think what you're getting at, Paul, is just know that at the foundation, the license is assigned to an email address, not to a person's name. So we need the email address that they are sure they can check email on. And that sounds obvious, but think about it. Adult learners with a phone, some of them never check email on their phone. Some of them only use WhatsApp. If we're talking about adult immigrants, they use WhatsApp to communicate with their family. Email is kind of this, for some students, it's very abstract and they've never checked it on their phone. Sometimes their ESL teacher has taught them in a lab how to have an email, and that's a thing that belongs in a computer.
Yeah.
So we really like that whole piece has to be seen as the tech growth that you promote as a teacher is an
Which is
awareness of,
important.
yep, how do you check it? How do you download an app? Where are apps anyway? Where do you find them? A lot of adult learners are still learning that as they walk around with these expensive devices, but don't know how to use
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Okay. So we see ourselves as, we're going to love our students into, one step up of tech use. You can do this. Blue Canoe is not that complicated as a lift, but you have to check on your students' assumed skills, and you may find that they're lower than you might think.
Which is important anyway. Yeah.
Yep. No, and I mean, I'll just give you the most shocking example. We have a colleague in New Mexico that Paul knows, Laura, of students at the community college there. And Laura, she's extremely savvy when it comes to tech and teaching students. And she was shocked when she realized that it had gone on for 2 to 3 months of trying to help, just a couple of these straggling students that just weren't getting into Blue Canoe. It kept looping around, like, I can't find my confirmation code. Well, we fixed that later because of these folks. But the reason it became difficult was that she kept saying, where's your email account? Like, where do you check that? And they say, oh, I don't know. And it turned out that these 2 students had invented email addresses. They'd never actually made them. They just said them. Like, they knew that there's an arroba, the @ symbol, and they knew there's like a Gmail or Yahoo, and then they just made it up. And they didn't know that you can't just, it's like saying my name is Chris Smith. I can say that, but there's nothing real to it until I go change my name. So they had just made email addresses, and they didn't know that there was more to it than that. And that was like the shocking realization was, oh my goodness, we've been trying to solve a problem where there's no there. And no wonder they couldn't get in.
It sounds like me getting online.
Hey,
Because
Cassandra,
if you
you were,
don't-
Cassandra, earlier on, you were talking about learning the 16 colors and symbols and all that stuff. I would go to a place like the ELTS website where there's an interactive chart.
Yeah.
ELTS meaning,
So
Yeah,
this is the
they're
color
a
vowel.
company.
Yeah, let me take you there
yeah,
now.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, the
ELTS is
color
that,
vowel.
is, you mean the chart that you guys use?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
there's,
no,
there's an,
I've looked at it.
no, but there's an audio version of it too.
Oh, okay.
Or when you
So-
click on an icon, which Karen's
Okay.
taken us to.
Yeah, so this is our website. You can go straight down the homepage and you'll get to our audio interactive. And so you can actually use this in your classroom, and Annette, this sort of, might be useful to you too with your smartboard challenge. You make this bigger with Command Plus. Now I have a nice big chart. If you don't like all this gobbledygook, we also provide this chart on the teachers subpage. Just take a look, teachers,
Mhm.
interact with the chart, and it's a little cleaner for classroom moments, right? Like this.
Okay.
Look at that, right? Pretty. Now imagine that now is projected on your screen, and now we can listen
A cup of mustard.
and so forth.
Oh,
Okay, so that's all there for you. And then the other thing I'll just mention is, in general, if you're new or returning to color vowel like Solange is, after, I think now it's been 5 years since we worked together. And Doug, I feel like you and Solange were in the same early group, by the way. I just want to mention that. That was about 2016. that you
yes,
were in
yes,
half
yes,
day, half week.
Okay.
yes, I
Yeah.
recognized him. Yes.
So I do remember you. But anyway, just know that over here in training, that's where, you really need to spend a little time to know that we provide a lot of support for you in a lot of manageable ways. And that includes our Friday at 5 sessions, which are free. Our Thursday night pure practice sessions, which are also free, and where I basically teach and demonstrate the color vowel approach with real students from all over the world. Last night was a fascinating group of people from all over, and then come down and you'll see other very affordable ways to be updated on how it is we're using this brain-based science that we've become more and more aware of. As we learn more, we produce more in terms of techniques and strategies for you. So for an update of your skills, Solange, you'd want to look at this FAST program that we offer. This is what came out of Refresh and Expand, Doug, that you came in with and refreshed and expanded with. And then we highly recommend, looking down at our level 1, 2, and 3 journey.
Right, yeah,
And that's all mentioned under our courses for certification.
right, yeah.
Where I'll just finish up for the day, but just knowing that you're on a journey and knowing that there's a next step for everybody here. This all integrates with the use of Blue Canoe and effective opportunities for your classroom. Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming today. We've had a very productive setting. I think we got our 4 questions. Let me look back up here. Number 1 was Chromebooks. We addressed it. Number 2 was effective ways to use Blue Canoe in class. Always more to do there, but we definitely explored that some, didn't we? 3 was knowing how to check your version of the app, which you do want to do if you feel like you were in a different one from your student. And
I
I'll
have it update. Yeah.
yeah, and so you would look at that. If I just grab my phone again here and show you briefly, when you're in your phone and you go to the home screen of today, look up here, you'll see that little profile. And it's a couple clicks, because then you need to click on this gear, and then you'll see your profile, and you click on that. And then you can, hold on here, what am I looking at? Maybe I'm down here. Usually we can see our version. I wonder why I don't see my, now I'm trying to show you something fancy.
Go
and it's-
back to support, halfway
There you go.
down, support.
Thank you.
The
Email support, help center support.
Yeah,
right up
somewhere down.
above Help Center is support version 2.16.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just scared myself. So I'm gonna now stop sharing my phone, but I know it's there. And I think about, nope, that's not it, but it's there for you. Something shifted for me too. But do know that the Help Center, you can reach us immediately with questions right there. If it's a question about the app, not about the method or about words or, language. If it's a question about the app itself, you can email our support team and it goes straight to us, where you can give feedback through an email that goes straight to us and we'll reply to you. Okay. So that's there for you. And were we able to find the version? There it is, right there.
Yeah, but that tells you what's on your machine. It doesn't tell you what the most current one is through the whole system.
Right, but we can always go to your app store and see if there are any updates. So that's how you update. And there's a setting where you can choose, I believe it's in your
You
phone.
don't have automatic update in the app?
I think that's a setting in your phone, whether you choose to get automatic updates.
Okay.
It's not a per app.
Yeah, I
thing.
think so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So this is, and I'll just tell you that 2.16 is the latest. So if you have anything less than that, then you need to update in your app store. Okay. Hey, thank you so much, everybody. It's Friday. It's
Yeah.
5:13. We still have
Right.
a little bit of light left on the East Coast. I think for
Right.
Lisa,
No, here it's dark already. Vermont is
Crazy.
completely dark.
I'm going to go on
Lisa,
a
you
bike
have to
ride.
tell us what time of the morning is it?
11:13 a.m. Saturday morning.
There we go. Beautiful.
Where is she? Where are you?
New Zealand,
Oh my goodness. Oh, the other side of the world.
down the bottom of the world. Yeah.
Yes, you're one day ahead. You're the next day. You're
Yeah, I'm in the
tomorrow.
future. I'm living in the
Yeah.
future. Yeah.
Which island are you on?
Oh, cool.
South Island, in the South Island.
I'd like to close up with Jennifer. I think she's been listening. Do you have anything you want to say that I haven't said, Jennifer?
No, it's been interesting listening to everybody's different, takes on the app and how they're going to be using it. But just to reiterate, if you have any questions about the color vowel side of things, I can't help with Blue Canoe very much, but if you're interested in training, if you haven't had FAST or basics yet, please just email me, jennifer@colorval.com.
Good. And my final promo is that Jennifer is going to be giving a workshop called Grammaring the Color Vowel Way. And you'll see a link to it up here. You'll also see it down below on our training page. But it's going to be a wonderful workshop. It's 4 hours from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can see it right here. It's marked with the people. It's one of our public workshops, regardless of whether you have any color vowel training or lots of color vowel training. This is a grammar oriented workshop. So it's sort of, Jennifer, you want to do one little plug of what it's really about?
It's looking at grammar from a different perspective of not just teaching your students rules and then practicing them. And so a lot of what we do in color vowel is noticing and applying not rules, but sort of overarching, I can't, it's Friday.
I would say patterns.
I would say patterns. Yeah, looking for patterns and having, you step back and let the students develop their skills for finding patterns and being able to apply them. And also looking at how rhythmic and patterns and pronunciation work can help your students with learning different structures. And it will be looking at, from very basic things like, the simple present and basic sentence structures, all the way up to, adjective clauses and things like that you do with more advanced learners.
So join us. It's bound to be fun. Even the cat's interested. When the cat gets involved, it's a sign it's a good time to sign off.
I'm sure my cat will be coming along too. So.
Have a great evening. Have a great day, everybody.
Have
Thank
a
you
nice
so much.
weekend.
And we'll
Thank
see
you very
soon.
much.
Follow up with any questions you have. Okay, Karen@colorval.com or Karen@bluecanoelearning.com if it's a Blue Canoe question. Okay. Be well. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.